starting a new book. Last week we started Bamidbar. In the wilderness, we're learning that life is a process. It's about what we're going through, and it's not just about the destination. The journey is a part of it. And last week, as we found, we were going into the wilderness. They were to take a census and account the children of Israel among each other for the purpose of establishing identity and who they are, and to be put in groups by families, by tribes, by banners. And so they were being drawn together, pulled out of their comfort zones and scattered from where they were all over the camp to start to bring them into some cohesion here as far as the Father wants to teach them to go into the land in this manner. So here, in this week, we continue somewhat with accounting, somewhat of a census. The Levi'im were not necessarily counted among all the other tribes of Israel. The Levi'im were generally counted as separate among Israel. And so here we start to see now they're talking about the Levi'im. Now they're talking about responsibilities for the Levites and in their count, what their responsibilities and what their service was that was in the midst of the camp. We know that they're to keep the holy things holy, to keep the sanctity of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, and to keep all this pure, undefiled. But now how are they supposed to do that when they move? How are they supposed to keep everything together when they go from camp to camp to camp? And these are the things that is the everyday life. These are the issues that we're looking at now. 42 encampments, guys, in a 40-year span. That's a lot of moving. So how does the Father move us in our daily life and still try to keep order to some things that are in our life? We jump from place to place, and the Father says in our moving, in our daily coming and going and everything, there's order to what He wants us to follow. And that order is going to help keep us on track. It's going to help keep us in a path that He says will bring blessing, a path that will bring life. And we have our own sets of responsibilities in the midst of the camp to each other and to the Father. And so we start to see some of this in the responsibilities of the Levi'im, the responsibilities of the Levites. So what we find is Yahweh is starting to put the tribes together, and He's putting them together for order and for purpose. He's saying these are the tribes that I want to stick together, and then we go to the Levi'im, and they're being designed to have specific tasks. And that's important when you get to a camp that's really huge, and when you have to tear down and set up and move from place to place. It's important that people are assigned certain tasks, and that like one person isn't trying to do everything, and that everyone has their own grouping of responsibilities. If I can focus on what I have right here in front of me, then I can focus on this, and knowing that you will focus on your part and the person over there will focus on their part, and together we can accomplish the whole. But we all only see a piece of the puzzle, and when we come together is when we establish a wider picture of everything, okay? So the order of the Levi'im service was given to keep the holy things holy and to protect the sanctity of the Mishkan and the camp. And when we start this Parsha, and actually starts off with a different clan beforehand, but when we start off with this Parsha, it talks about Gershon. Okay, so I want to break this down for a second. What do we know about Gershon? Levi had 3 sons, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And each had their own assignment of responsibility, and they were each supposed to be proficient in their task. This is key. Gershon had certain responsibilities within the camp, and they were to focus on their responsibilities in the camp. They were not to say, okay, well, this is my responsibility, but they're doing it wrong over there. I need to go fix them. I need to go correct them. And no, they had your focus within the camp that you had to pay attention to, and you had to be proficient at your job. And in order to do your job the way that you need to do it, you can't keep looking around to see what everybody else is doing. Okay, you need to keep the task at hand in front of you. Okay, and not to put these things aside. So, where did Gershon camp? Gershon camped on the west side of the Mishkan, and it's interesting because along with them, he camped with Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin. And what was their service in the work of the tabernacle? Well, this is interesting when you take a look, when you break it all down. Let's take a look at it. Numbers chapter 4, Bamidbar, chapter 4, verses 21 through 26 is where we look at this. I'm going to start in verse 24. This is the service of the families of the Gershonites to serve and for burdens. And they shall bear the curtains of the tabernacle and the tabernacle of the congregation, his covering, and the covering of the badger skins that is above on it, and the hanging for the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the hangings of the court, and the hanging for the door at the gate of the court, which is by the tabernacle, and by the altar round about, and their cords, and all the instruments of their service, and all that is made for them, so shall they serve. So, one of the things they were supposed to do was really, if you were to broaden the scope of this, so what was their responsibility? The coverings. The coverings for the Mishkan, the coverings for the sanctuary, the coverings for all this. This was their task, the coverings. Well, what was the purpose of the coverings? The coverings was a separation between holy and common, and the covering provided a protection for the holy things. It's not just to have the separation between the holy and the common so that the things that are common do not encroach upon the holy things. They were to keep this separation here so that the holy things would not be defiled. And that was their task. They were to care for the things that were to cause this separation, which helps in discernment, helps in discerning, and helps in learning how to break down the clean, the unclean, the holy, common, the holy and the profane. And all this relates to the coverings, because the holy things were holy, but we couldn't just go up and just touch them. Okay? There was certain order and the way things needed to be done. Leviticus 10:10 and 11 says, "You are to distinguish between the holy and the common, and between the unclean and the clean. And you are to teach the people of Israel all the statutes that Yahweh has spoken to them by Moshe." In Ezekiel 44:23, speaking of the sons of Zadok, it says, "They shall teach my people the difference between the holy and the common, and show them how to distinguish between the unclean and the clean." So, what was supposed to remain holy? What were they supposed to guard? The sanctity of not just the teachings that were there to learn to distinguish and discern between the clean, the unclean, and the holy and the common, but in order to provide the teachings for these, they were given actual, literal, physical structures. These were clean. These are unclean. This is how you protect it. This is how you guard it. So they were to guard the sanctuary, the mikdash, okay, the holy place. Mikdash is a consecrated thing or a consecrated place, a sanctuary. It is a set-apart place, for it was the purpose of Yahweh to dwell among us, and it said it is there that he will meet with us. I mean, let's face the fact, Yah is set apart. And as we see ourselves as set apart, we come to Yah, what promise do we have? As we approach the Mishkan, what is the picture that we see? And so the Mikdash is the sanctuary. It is the holy place. Mikdash is a holy place. And we approach the Mishkan, the tabernacle. As we approach the tabernacle, what should we have in mind? What should we see? What should we keep within us? Where is our focus as we're approaching the Mishkan? Well, this is a holy thing. But what can I expect the closer I get to it? Well, the name, even the word Mishkan, Shakan, is to dwell. Okay, so this is the place where Yah dwells. This was a place for dwelling presence. But even in the Hebrew, if you break down the letters, you get an interesting picture. What you have, to tabernacle with Yah, to dwell with him, right? The word picture is to destroy chaos and preserve or safeguard life. Isn't that an amazing picture? To destroy chaos and preserve or safeguard life. So as we approach the Mishkan and we approach the holy place, we can see as we submit ourselves to the Father and we learn to dwell with Him, that the chaos in our life will be destroyed. Now, I'm not saying that your life will be easy. I'm not saying that you will not have any problems. What I am saying is you'll have peace. The chaos in your life will be destroyed. All right? So what are the responsibilities that we find here of the Levi'im? The sons of Levi. What were the responsibilities of the different families within this tribe? Well, let's look at a couple things, okay? First off, the Gershonites, what do we find about them? The Gershonites, it says, they shall carry the curtains of the tabernacle and the tent of meeting with its covering, and with the covering of goat skin that is on the top of it, and the screen for the entrance of the tent of meeting, and the hangings of the court, and the screen for the entrance of the gate, and the court that is around the tabernacle, and the altar, and their cords, and all the equipment for their service, and they shall do all that needs to be done with regard to them. This is pretty interesting too, because it says, and they shall do all that needs to be done with regard to them. That means repair. That means maintenance. That means so it's the rips and the tears, and they need sewn, and just the different things that need attention. It's not just put it up, take it down, put it up, take it down. Oh, look at that. That needs fixed. Well, better call somebody. No, that was their place. That was their job. That was their task. So it's not just to say, okay, my job is to move this. I'm moving this, and I'm also making sure that everything is in good standing. Everything is in good order. All right, let's move on. Merari, and this is what they are charged to carry. As the whole of their service in the tent of meeting, the frames of the tabernacle with its bars, pillars, and bases, and the pillars round about the court with their bases, pegs, and cords, and all their equipment and all their accessories. The frame of the Mishkan. Now this is a big deal, isn't it? This stuff is heavy, but it was their place to carry the frame. And what would happen if we tried to put up the Mishkan and we didn't have the frame? We wouldn't be able to do it, would we? All right, moving on. The Kohathites. The Kohathites, this is the service of the sons of Kohath in the tent of meeting, the most holy things. This is an amazing picture. And when Aaron and his sons have finished covering the sanctuary and all the furnishings of the sanctuary as the camp sets out, after that the sons of Kohath shall come to carry these, but they must not touch the holy things lest they die. This is pretty amazing. The Kohathites were to carry the most holy things. This is like the table of showbread, the menorah, the ark. I mean, this is an amazing task. They were to carry the most holy things. The tribe of Kohath was to... Now, the interesting thing about this is they could carry these things, but they couldn't go in to touch these things without them being covered. They could carry it, they just can't look at it. Think about that for a minute. Because Aaron and his sons were supposed to come in, and they would go in backwards, and they would cover the holy things. And then when they were finished, the Kohathites would come, and then they would carry them. Now, what's the importance of them not touching these things? Again, we're talking about defilement. We're talking about things being... No, we're not talking about sin. We're just talking about unclean and not touching the holy things like that. Okay? We find this. All have their role, but we're not to work against each other, but they were supposed to work with each other. And it's like that for us as well. We each have our role. We each have our place that we're supposed to fit within the body. We're not just a piece of the body that just stays by ourselves, okay? We are a part of something bigger than us. So we need to make sure that we are a part of the body and that we are a functioning part of the body. That's important too, isn't it? We need to make sure that we are a functioning part of the body. We look at Ephesians 4:11 through 16. It says, "Furthermore, He gave some people as emissaries, some as prophets, some as proclaimers of the good news, and some as shepherds and teachers. Their task is to equip God's people for the work of the service that builds up the body of the Messiah." The important thing to note here is that there were some positions that were given here that were not elevated above other people, but he's saying that these positions are given in place to help task the people, to equip the people to do the work of the kingdom, to do the work that benefits the body at large. This is training. This is instruction. This is all areas that we need help in, okay? And that we can't do by ourselves. All right? Let's keep going. Verse 13, until we all arrive at the unity implied by trusting and knowing the Son of God, at the full manhood, at the standard of maturity set by the Messiah's perfection. We will then no longer be infants, tossed about by the waves and blown along by every wind of teaching, at the mercy of people clever in devising ways to deceive. Instead, what do we find? Verse 15, instead, speaking the truth in love, we will in every respect grow up into him who is the head, the Messiah. Under his control, the whole body is being fitted and held together by the support of every joint, with each part working to fulfill its function. This is how the body grows and builds itself up in love. We each have a role to help each other out. Okay? This is how the body grows and builds itself up in love. I think of Ezekiel's Valley of Dry Bones. You know, they have the whole house of Israel. All these dry bones are scattered all over the place. And he says to prophesy. And they start to go and they start to shake. And there's this clatter and there's this noise. And then did all the bones just kind of stop and stay where they were? And then flesh started coming on the bones as they were laying all separated, all off by themselves? No. What we have is that the bones came together, then the sinew, the muscles, and the flesh all then came upon them. Then the Spirit was breathed into them, and they came to life. They were alive. Okay. If we are scattered all over the place, can we truly stand as a unified body of Messiah? No, we cannot. So we need to be with the body. We need to start to see the bigger picture beyond just, me and what I think. We need to see the picture as a kingdom. And we need to join together with those who are willing to come together to play a part or play a role in the kingdom. And join together to be fit together so that we can grow up and mature. Right? You ever go to a playground with a bunch of kids? How many fights do you see? How many arguments do you see and get into? But truth be told, we're not much better as adults. We need to grow up, and we need to mature, and we need to see there's better ways to handle this, and we need to be able to come and to work together for a greater purpose. And the purpose is revealing the kingdom here now, to see the heart and the love of the Messiah and give it to those around us. Luke 19:17 says, he said to them, well, thou good servant, because you have been faithful in very little, you have authority over 10 cities. Wow. Because there was a servant who was given a certain measure of money, and because he was faithful with the little bit that he was given, he was rewarded with great reward. If we're faithful in little things, if we're faithful in just starting little things, the Father will continue to grow those responsibilities, and we'll start to see bigger things. Luke 16:10-12. One who is faithful in very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much. If then you have not been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, who will entrust you with true riches? And if you have not been faithful in that which is another's, who will give you that which is your own? So, what we have here is Yeshua is saying, if you're faithful in just your job, just your everyday things that you do, then maybe you can be trusted with things of the kingdom. If you're faithful in little things or things that you may seem as irrelevant or things that you might not find as important, then if you're faithful to do these things, because everything that we do, we should do toward the Father. So if we're faithful in these little things, then the bigger things will come. Okay? So we're faithful in the little things and the reward will come. Let's keep going. Know this, there is a time of testing, trusting, and proving when it comes to handling the things of the kingdom. Yahweh couldn't say, so this is the task for the sons of Levi, the Kohathites. They are to carry the most holy things. Or the Gershonites. They are to carry the coverings. It couldn't say to give them this if they weren't faithful to move, the pebbles out of the way or to dust it off. I mean, little things that might not seem like a big deal. There's a time of testing. There's a time of proving. There's a time of learning. There's a time to discern. There's a time to work through things. I mean, even if we have a regular job, just a lot of places do internships. What's the deal with an internship? Well, they want to see if you can do the job. They want to see if you'll handle the job well. Well, Yahweh is teaching and instructing us in His ways. And if we feel that we're at a place where we can teach others, guys, we're going to be held accountable for that. So we've got to learn to be faithful in the little things that He puts in our path. We've got to learn that there's a time of testing, there's a time of trial, there's a time of trusting. Okay, we have to trust that Yahweh will mean what He says, and He'll bring us to the things that are right at the right time. Okay, just because we think that we've got something right in front of us, we're excited about it, that it's time to go. Not necessarily. Okay, sometimes there's a time of learning, and there's a time of trusting. Maybe the Father does want to give us what we desire, but it's not time for it yet because we're not ready for it yet. We're not equipped to handle what we're asking for. So we have to learn to get equipped. Again, there's a time of training. There's a time of testing. Okay? If you go into the military, they send you to boot camp. Why? There's a time of testing. There's a time of training. Because if you go to war and you're not trained in combat, you're going to hurt yourself. You can probably kill somebody else too, on your side. So there's a training involved. Guys, it's this way handling the word of Yah as well. There's a time of training, a time of learning, and a time of discerning. You can't just, I'm born again, and then tomorrow I'm going to tell the whole world, I'm going to teach the whole world. It doesn't work like that. You don't know anything. Now, I'm not taking away your testimony that you've been changed. Because let's face it, we all have that story. That's not theology. That's not saying, this is how you need to live, or this is what the word says, or anything like that. It's a matter of, I'm different. I'm changed. My testimony is I was this way, now I'm this way. No one can take that away from you. Okay? Nor should anyone try. But to say, okay, I was born again yesterday and now I'm a teacher? No, that's not good. You need to have a time of learning, time of training, okay? Time to learning how to discern the word, and we have to submit ourselves to others for this process too. Okay? All right. 1 Thessalonians 5:11-15 says, "Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. We ask you, brothers, to respect those who labor among you and are over you in the Lord and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love because of their work. Be at peace among yourselves. And we urge you, brothers, to admonish the idle, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with them all. See that no one repays anyone evil for evil, but always seek to do good to one another and to everyone." Luke 6:39-40 says, Yeshua speaking, he says, "Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone when he is fully trained will be like his teacher." So what it's saying is that there's a time of training and a time of discipleship. Okay, this is hard because not everybody has this. All right, and not everybody has access to this, but it's such an integral part of our life. Because discipleship is not just, well, I'm learning this teaching, or I'm learning that teaching, or I'm learning some other teaching. Discipleship is accountability. Discipleship is I'm involved in your life. It's not just a teaching that you're getting. There's encouragement, and there's challenge, and there's also admonishment. I mean, there's all of this in discipleship, learning how to do this. This is like a one-on-one interaction, guys. 1 Timothy 4, 6, and 7 says, if you put these things before the brothers, you will be a good servant of Messiah Yeshua, being trained in the words of the faith and of good doctrine that you have followed, having nothing to do with irreverent, silly myths. Rather, train yourself for godliness. Again, this is a time of training, a time of equipping, and a time of learning how to properly handle the word, so we don't cause damage to ourselves, don't cause damage to others, and so that we don't profane the name of our Elohim. Okay? Hebrews 5, 12 through 14. For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic principles of the oracles of God. You need milk, not solid food. For everyone who lives on milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, since he is a child. But the solid food is for the mature. The solid food is for those who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice to distinguish good from evil. So what we have here is there's the Levi'im are being trained for their service, for their task. It's not just when the Mishkan is set up and put into service, now they all have things that they do while it's standing there, but when they went to move, when they went to go, and I mean, they all had the things they had to deal with at that time as well. Okay? Naso, this Parsha, starts with an emphasis on relationship to the Mishkan and the camp being kept holy and being kept in order. Okay? Being kept holy and being kept in order are important things in the wilderness. They're important things in our daily life, right? We are all part of the body. We all have a role to play, but we're not looking to compete with each other. But we need to learn to work together for the benefit of the whole. We need to learn that we can volunteer for things, but if we're given a task, do the task that was given to you. Do not look at the task that was given to you and envy somebody else's task. Yes, I was given this to do, but I don't want to do this. I want to do that. No, you were given this. I mean, this is a lot of people want to serve, but they only want to serve where they want to serve, not where it's actually needed. Think about that for a minute. Are we trying to serve for ourselves, or are we trying to serve in the kingdom? If we're serving in the kingdom, we'll just try to see where the need is and to see where we can help. Doesn't matter. It's like, oh no, I want to serve, but I only want to serve over there. Where's the heart in that? It really is showing something about our life, isn't it? Psalm 110 verse 3 says, your people will offer themselves freely on the day of your power, in holy garments from the womb of the morning. The dew of your youth will be yours. The NASB says, your people will volunteer freely in the day of your power. That's quite a way to put it. Your people will volunteer freely, or offer themselves as a free will offering. Putting ourselves, it doesn't matter what we're asked to do. Whatever it is, we'll do it. For no other reason, we love Yah. We want to honor Him. We want to please Him. We want to work in His kingdom wherever He says He wants us. If He wants to reorder our steps, let Him reorder our steps. If we're like, okay, well, in Egypt, I made bricks, but here in the wilderness, what do? If He reassigns my task, then that's what I do. Okay? Because what we do does not, as far as our jobs, what we do does not define us. What defines us is who the Father has created us to be. Let's keep going. So are we willing to be used in a role that is unseen? Aha. Well, that really touches the pride, doesn't it? Are we willing to do a role? Are we willing to play a part in a role that no one will see, no one will know we did it, and maybe we consider it something demeaning? Do we do it anyway? Does it matter, really? If it's something that needs done, do it for the glory of the kingdom. Do it for the glory of Yah. It doesn't matter what it is. James 4:17, whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. Galatians 6:9, let us not lose heart in doing good, for in due time we will reap if we do not grow weary. James 1:22, be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. We must do what Yah has put in front of us. We must do the words of life to get them written on our heart. In order to write them on our heart, we have to do them. So again, are we willing to be used in a role that is unseen? Ephesians 6:5-8 says, bondservants, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, with a sincere heart as you would Mashiach. Not by the way of eye service as people pleasers, but as bondservants of Mashiach, doing the will of God from the heart, rendering service with a good will as to the Lord and not to man, knowing that whatever good anyone does, this he will receive back from the Lord, whether he is a bondservant or whether he is free. So whatever we do, do for Yah. It doesn't matter what the task is. It doesn't matter if it's for the Mishkan or for the temple or if it's just in our everyday job. Whatever we do, make sure we honor Yah in it. Make sure we give glory to Him in it. Because whatever you do, I mean, let's face this. Our next breath is because Yah has given it to us. If you have a skill, it's because Yah has given it to you. If you can use your hands to do amazing things, it's because Yah has given you the means to do that. He has equipped you for that. So whatever He has given to you, whatever He has gifted to you, use it for Him, because He will give gifts however He will. And I mean this physically, and I mean this spiritually too, even spiritual gifts. He will give as He will. Yahweh gives to whom He will, when He will, how He will, why He will. We may not understand, well, how come He got that and I didn't? Well, how come God's doing this over there and I'm not seeing this over here? Did He give it to you? Like right here? No. Yahweh will do as He will. And when He gives His gifts, He gives them to whomever He will, however He will, whenever He will. Okay? We see this in 1 Corinthians 12:11. It says, all these work the one and selfsame Spirit, dividing to every man severally as He wills. So then, if He will divide these things in the tasks according to the gifts of the Spirit, then so are the tasks and responsibilities and the duties and the things that He gives us. If He gave me a job to do, He wants me to do that job. Now, if I don't do it, sure, He can find somebody else to do it, but He wanted me to do that job. Am I going to do it? Or am I going to say, well, I don't want to do that? Or am I going to be faithful in what He puts in front of me, knowing that when this task is done, He'll have something else for me? We're kind of looking at a potter and clay scenario. We find this in Isaiah 29:13-16, where it says, so the Lord said, because His people drew near with their mouth and honor me with their lips, while their hearts are far from me, and their fear of me is a commandment taught by men. Therefore, behold, I will again do wonderful things with this people. With wonder upon wonder, and with wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the discernment of their discerning men shall be hidden. Ah, you who hide deep from Yahweh your counsel, whose deeds are in the dark, and who say, who sees us? Who knows us? You turn things upside down. Look at this. Shall the potter be regarded as the clay? That thing made should say of its maker, he did not make me? Or the thing formed say of him who formed it, he has no understanding? Shaul put it this way in Romans 9:20 and 21. Who are you, O man, to answer back to God? Will what is molded say to its molder, why have you made me like this? Has the potter no right over the clay to make out of the same lump one vessel for honorable use and the other for dishonorable use? In other words, Are we willing to serve where we are needed, or do we desire someone else's role? Do we desire someone else's place? Do we desire someone else's responsibility, someone else's job, someone else's task, someone else's gifts? Do we want... Sorry, guys, this is just really... It really touches us, doesn't it? It really addresses us. I mean, do we put ourselves in a place where it's like, well, how come I didn't get that? Or how come, well, I want that over there. I don't want to do this. I want to do that. If we haven't proven ourselves faithful in the little things, he's not going to give us much. Okay? Think about Nadav and Avihu. I mean, sons of Aaron, right? So when they went to try to offer before Yahweh, they went to offer incense and they brought strange fire before Yah. How did that work for them? That wasn't their task. It wasn't their responsibility. That wasn't their place. They stepped outside of what they were anointed for, and it cost them their lives. Wow. How about this? We also see the effects of this behavior or thought process when we get to the Parsha in the book Bamidbar, when we get to this Parsha called Korach. Korah was a Kohathite who didn't want the job or the responsibility of a Kohathite. He wanted Aaron's job, and it cost him his life too. Colossians 3:23-25. So whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men, knowing that of the Lord you shall receive the reward of the inheritance, for you serve Yeshua HaMashiach. But he that does wrong shall receive for the wrong which he has done, and there is no respect of persons. So a question is, when we are envious, or are we envious when someone else gets what we want? This is a good question, and this is a good test of our character, is it not? Are we envious of someone else when they get what we want? And what kind of behavior, what kind of questions, what kind of things start coming up out of us? Like, when someone else gets something we want, are we jealous? Or do we have things like, why did they get that? Or is it, why did they get that instead of me getting that? Well, how come they got that and I didn't? Or further, well, it's not just that we want it, we don't want them to have it. Well, how come they got that? That's not fair. I wanted that. Well, if I can't have it, I don't want them to have it. It's a good check of the heart, isn't it? 1 Peter 2:1-3 says, So put away all malice and all deceit and hypocrisy and envy and all slander. Like newborn infants, long for the pure spiritual milk, that by it you may grow up into salvation, if indeed you have tasted that the Lord is good. Put away envy, slander, malice, all of these other things that are infantile. You start with the milk, then you can grow up into the meat. But you got to start on the milk, though. You got to start somewhere. But the idea is you grow. You got to grow. Proverbs 14:30 says, A tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bones rot. A tranquil heart, a good heart, gives life to the flesh, but envy rots the bones. Wow, that means it goes deep down inside you, doesn't it? A test of our faith and what helps set us apart is a heart of obedience to do those things we may not yet understand. There are some things in the Word that we might get, that we might understand. Things like it's wrong to murder. But the world has the same view. So what separates us from the world? What separates us is when we see the word of Yah, when we say we are a people redeemed, therefore we live as a people redeemed, we are set apart, so we keep his word. And there are some things in the word that doesn't make sense to the world. I mean, we have things like the cross is foolishness to the world, right? So there are things that we might not understand why Yahweh wants it done this way, but he has reasons. He wants us to do it this way because this way reveals his heart and reveals his character. even though we might not get it, we might not comprehend it. But there are things he asks just for simple obedience. Why? Because it'll help reveal his life in our midst if we do this way. Deuteronomy 32, 45 through 47 says, When Moses had finished speaking all these words to Israel, he said to them, Take to heart all the words by which I am warning you today, that you may command them to your children, that they may be careful to do all the words of this law. For it is no empty word for you, but your very life. Wow, your very life. And by this word you shall live long in the land that you are going over the Jordan to possess it. So part of the reason for order in the camp is to bring about the blessing that Yah desires to give us. In other words, I want you to be obedient to me. When you are obedient to me, then I can give you this blessing freely that I have for you. If you do not do what I'm asking you, if you are not faithful in the little things that I'm asking you, I cannot reward disobedience with blessing. So, if we are obedient, faithful, trusting, there is reward. Genesis 18, 17 through 19. Yahweh speaking to Avram, he says, And Yahweh says, Shall I hide from Avraham the thing which I do, seeing that Avraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, that they shall keep the way of Yahweh, to do justice and judgment, that Yahweh may bring upon Avraham the thing which he has spoken to him. So what he's saying is, shall I do the things, shall I tell Avram what I'm about to do? He was about to go down to Sodom and Gomorrah to bring judgment, but he was looking for Avram to intercede. Okay, so shall I tell Avram what I'm doing? Because he's going to do the right thing, and that when he does the right thing, that I can bring about the blessing that I have for him. See how that works? And so even Yitzhak, when Yah was speaking to Yitzhak, he spoke of the blessing that was coming to him because Avraham was faithful. Guys, can you imagine that our faithfulness can be such a way where it can be passed on to our descendants? Wow. Look at this. Genesis 26:5. So Yah speaking to Yitzhak, and he says, Because Avraham obeyed my voice. That's Asher Shim. Sorry guys, I'm having a hard time reading that. But Asher Shimoah Avraham Bikoli. The emphasis I'm looking at is he shema my voice. Okay? And he kept my charge. That's Shema Mishmerate. So he kept my charge, the thing that I charged him to do, the thing that I told him to keep and guard and protect the sanctity of it, the thing I told him to keep, he did. Okay, he kept it. And my commandments, mitzvot, commandments, mitzvotai, is the word there, and my statutes, hukotai, and my hukoti, and my statutes, and my laws. The word there for laws is Torah. So what we have here is that Yah was saying that Avraham walked in the things that I asked of him, no matter what it was. Whether it was just hearing my voice, or whether it was my mitzvot, or it was the things I just told him to guard and protect, or even the things for my Torah. No matter what I asked him, he did it, and he was faithful. Therefore, I will bring about the blessing that I promised to Avraham, to Yitzhak, and will continue that blessing to Yaakov. So what about for us? What is the blessing that Yah said he desired to give for the entire camp? That blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. It says, Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, Thus you shall bless the people of Israel. You shall say to them, verse 24, Yivarechecha Yahweh vayishmerecha. Ya'er Yahweh panav elecha v'chunecha. Yasa Yahweh panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And verse 27 says, So shall they put my name on the people of Israel, and I will bless them. Receive the blessing that Yahweh says he desires for you, his people. Receive the blessing, the light of his countenance coming to you. Receive him coming to make you whole and complete. This shalom means to be made whole and complete. To be able to stand before the Most High because he has redeemed you. I pray this message has challenged you, and I pray that it encourages you. And if you've enjoyed this video, please share it. And until next time, again, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Shalom, everybody.